Salute to you all. The brave never fall. This is the first official podcast that I've done since the COVID-19 coronavirus outbreak, and I just could not get myself in the mindset of actually wanting to do a podcast. And it took me 2 weeks before I actually could just muster up the energy to do it. And for whatever reason today, I thought, it's time to get back into the swing of things and go ahead and start up the final 20 or so videos for phase 1 of the Brave Never Fall project. And I remember thinking before this outbreak happened, and I work for a school district, and I work outside. I do landscaping and groundskeeping for a school district in St. Louis, Missouri. And I was just thinking, it's time to fertilize. It's time to get outside and start hearing the birds sing, and start cutting the grass, and start working on my landscaping projects, and start budgeting and getting my project proposals all in. And this pops up, and all of a sudden the world changes, and you start truly believing and understanding that life is so much more bigger than you. You start to see how small you actually are in the realm of things when it comes to life, not only for yourself but for other people around you. Because being in quarantine, the first thing you think of is that you're thinking of yourself, which you should be thinking of yourself, obviously, and your immediate family, extended family, friends, co-workers, people you go to church with, people your acquaintances, people you go to the local bar with, people you meet up randomly with at the grocery store, you go to the movie theater, as I do a lot. You start thinking about all the things that you can't do. And the first thing that popped in my mind was routine. Get back into routine. Get back into what you know is normal, which only took me about 48 hours to understand that fact, that the one thing I could control until they told me I cannot walk out my front door is that I still can control my schedule. I can control my self-discipline, my self-love for myself, my respect. All that stuff still remains. And no matter what's going on in the world around you, you still have to understand you are on your path. You are still on your journey, and you are still on purpose. And as long as that is the case, whatever's going on out there, you have to protect who you are, and you have to protect the people around you, the people you show up for, the people that depend on you, and you certainly depend on yourself. But that doesn't mean you have to become a shell of yourself just because you're limited on all the extracurricular things you used to do before this happened. And this is not a scheduled podcast, obviously. This was something that I never thought would be on the agenda as a podcast. I have a very strict script of what podcasts come out and what topics we cover, and this one was not one of them. But in order for me to proceed, I felt like I had to address this. And there was a special person in my life, hey Butterfly, who told me that one day I got up in the morning and I went for a walk. And it was about a week, maybe a week and a half, almost 2 weeks into this virus, right when quarantine started really shifting into the Midwest, where me and my beautiful friend is from. She's from Illinois, I'm from Missouri. And I thought, I'm going to go for a walk. And I ended up, I called her up on FaceTime while I was walking. And she said, you should really do a podcast while you're walking. So I tried to walk and talk, and it started pouring rain. And I got through a bit of it, and I'm going to show you some of that footage right now. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. I was just on the phone with somebody very special to me, my little Butterfly. And she told me while I'm out here walking this morning, I believe it's March 18th. So we're in the midst of the COVID-19 virus, and me being a runner, I wanted to make sure that I'm always out here doing my part to keep my body in shape, keep my heart pumping. As we always talk about with the Brave Never Fall, it's all about the mind, the body, heart, and soul. And I didn't want to, I was finding it very hard to try to figure out when to do the rest of the podcast to try to finish up phase 1, the last 20 or so videos. With all this going on, the game plan is still in place, but actually one of the topics I wanted to talk about was something about a little bit on the topic of fear, but mostly on the topic of staying disciplined with yourself when you're in the midst of having something tragic happen in your life. When that big boulder hits you in the back of the head and you don't know what's going to happen next, and you feel like every moment that you're living in is something that is kind of drifting away from you, and you're always scrambling to try to pick it back up and to keep going with it. I always found that when I go outside and I'm in nature, not just working out, but actually get outside and breathing in air and taking in the air in your lungs and controlling your breathing, getting in a rhythm and a cadence with your walk and just trying to relax. You know, a peaceful relaxation is something I always felt like was very beneficial to all those quadrants: the mind, the body, the heart, and the soul. But when I'm out here, if you look at something like this, when I'm out here, it's crazy because there's no one out here. And yes, they tell you to practice social distancing through this pandemic, but that doesn't mean you can't go outside and enjoy some fresh air. There is no one outside right now. It's raining. It's about 50 degrees. Most people would say it's cold. I think it feels great out here. I think it feels wonderful. But unfortunately, like I said, it's what are people doing now besides just sitting on their couches and eating and hoping everything blows over? You have 2 to 3 weeks of isolation, and what positive things can you take from that? Because I always take a positive out of every negative. And the one positive that leapt off the page for me was through freedom and connection is pretty much what the Brave Never Fall is all about. But through freedom and connection, that connection part of it, one of the positives with being cooped up in the house with other people is that now in some ways you get to figure out in an extended period how connected you really are to your family. Are you going to start getting overwhelmed by them? You feel like you're getting closer? But more importantly, when you bring it back to yourself, are you still staying in your discipline, in your routine? Are you getting out of whack? Are you getting out of sorts? Are you feeling unbalanced? And if that's the case, why is that? And I always felt like in order to get to that point, you had to be a little bit unbalanced in the first place. So why not just assume that's going to happen and just stay in your routine as much as possible? I'm used to 5 to 6 days a week walking 5 or 6 miles just for my job alone. Not to mention some of the running and walking sessions I try to get in. My marathon was canceled. It was supposed to be March 29th. It's canceled. So I can sit in my room, in my house, drinking beer, eating Cheetos, or I can come out here in 50-degree weather like I would have to do if I was at work anyway and continue my discipline, my routine. My body is telling me it needs to be moving because that's the routine that it's in. So the body part of it I'm trying to take care of. The connection part of it is you have time now to strengthen your mind and learn from other people, to catch up with people, to learn things about people you never really thought about. You have time to ask important questions and have the time to listen to the answers. These are all positives that come out of a negative. Especially with a pandemic, we haven't gone through anything like this, so it can be, your mind's going to drift towards all the things that are happening around you. The most important thing is, if that's the case, are you using that energy to kind of shrivel up within yourself? Or are you using it to exert that energy to do something to better yourself? Because this is not going to last forever. So could you imagine a whole month of your life wasted waiting around for the government to tell you it's okay to go outside and walk, which it is, for other people to tell you it's okay to communicate? It's like you do that all the time. You know, it's not like you go in your house and everyone's quiet hiding underneath the stairs. This isn't a national disaster like a hurricane. This is something that human beings will have to deal with for a very, very long time, even going forward. because nature can take its course at any point in time and kind of steer us in a way where we're always on our heels in that sense. Even dealing with flu season. If everybody just came to a halt during flu season, where would we be as human beings? Pneumonia, chickenpox, measles, all the things that have us vaccinate ourselves for. There was a period of time where it was an outbreak and it was a scare. We had to adjust and adapt. And every individual is different. The most important thing to realize is that no matter what's going on, as you look out here, it's raining, it's cold, my nose is running, but I'm out here. I show you that footage because I hated every second of it. Because it was raining, I was distracted, and I just wasn't in the mood to really talk about it. But what Butterfly told me was that you need to take advantage of this moment in time, because not everybody out there is like you. Not everybody is like me when it comes to something like this, where you can handle and you're just still in your self-discipline, you're still in your routine, you're still in your pattern, your mindset is pretty much still the same. I generally 100%, I shouldn't say 100%, I would say I'm probably around 80 to 85% unaffected by everything that's going on around me, because I understand what's going on. I'm getting the information from the right places, and I'm trying to keep this all in perspective and contained in a bubble of normalcy as much as I possibly can until deemed otherwise. And until that happens, I'm going to go ahead and go forward. I'm going to continue my path. I'm going to be extremely careful around the people around me. I'm going to make sure that I'm not putting anyone else in danger, because I do work for a school district, and at least right now, I won't be working for this school district for forever. So that does play into how much exposure do I want to have at my particular job, and how much exposure I want to have with people around me when I know I'm still interacting with people where other people are quarantined. Quote unquote essential job, people may think that that's a great thing. It's kind of scary in a way, because you are forced to interact with other people, where other people are just, even though you don't have your jobs, stimulus package goes out, you can get some type of compensation for it. But when you have an essential job, it's not all that great when you know that you're going to be interacting with people and forced to be interacting with people. Luckily, I work outside, so not so much having to interact with people indoors, but it's still a very, very big deal in my mind, because anybody can walk up to me while I'm working, and I don't have any control over that. And control, we talk about this a lot with the Brave Never Fall. Controlling what you can do is essential. And what other people are doing outside of that, you have to also take that into account, but you have to start with yourself first. So it does get scary when you go outside and people are telling you, don't interact with this person, don't interact with that person, don't go to this place, don't go through a drive-through, make sure you're washing your hands, make sure you're cognizant of everything you're doing. Retrace your steps in case someone else gets sick, and did you interact with them? How does that trace back to you? All of these things are super, super important. And I remember taking that walk and hearing the footage you just heard, and I was severely distracted, because in my mind I was filtering through all of the things that I was uncertain about. And for some reason out there, with the rain pouring on my head and me walking and Butterfly telling me to do this, it forced me to think about stuff that I hadn't thought about. And one of the things I didn't think about was that even though I was dealing with this issue, I wasn't really thinking about other people and how they were dealing with it. And I was undermining the fear that this is really putting on other people. And I work for a district, and I'm on the core team, and we were talking about with my team, we do a check-in, and people were saying they were paranoid, they were afraid, they were skeptical. There was people who were on the conspiracy side. There were people who were not affected. I was one of those people. I raised my hand and say, hey, you know, we do the Zoom call, and I'm like, hey, I'm trying to keep a level of normalcy. But the funny thing about it is that while we're having this Zoom call, I'm looking at everyone, all these people that I know, that outside of this crisis were very different people, and I saw the effect that this is having on people, on my closest family members, on my son, on my coworkers. It's a burden. And I remember walking out in that rain, and I had to stop filming because it was raining. Was that an excuse to stop? Maybe not. Probably not. My phone's full waterproof. I stopped because I generally ran out of words to say. And the reason why I ran out of words to say was because I realized I hadn't processed enough to even speak on the subject. I realized that I might be a little more paranoid than I thought. And I went home and I realized I was more paranoid than I thought. I'm a huge germaphobe. I don't like people touching me in general. If you don't really know me, I don't want you touching me. That's just the bottom line. I don't like being around people who are sick. I don't like being around people who don't keep up good hygiene. It's just not who I am. I'm a very clean, organized, disciplined person when it comes to hygiene. I want to live as long as possible, and I certainly don't want someone else invading my medical space, so to speak, by putting things in my body that I didn't ask for, and then me passing it on to other people that I love, especially my son, who suffers from low white blood cells, and also is asthmatic. And so this coronavirus really started to trigger me in my mind about all the things that, all the scenarios you can go in your mind of what if this group of people get affected and this group of people get affected. And I actually had a few close calls, even in the core team that I work for. There was a person who had a very close call, and we thought this person might have contracted it. And there's two other cases where we know people whose family members have contracted the coronavirus. And if you listen to this 5 years from now, or you're listening to this right now, regardless of when you listen to this, the overall message of this is fear and how you handle it. Paranoia. When all that doubt starts to creep into you, it will put you in a state of severe uncertainty, because that's what I got into when I was taking that walk. I was walking and I was talking, and all of a sudden this wave of uncertainty just hit me right in the chest. And I remember thinking, I cannot talk anymore about this until I process this emotion of uncertainty. Uncertainty in any situation. How does it affect you? How do you handle uncertainty? What can you do about it? Is there anything you can do about it? Because uncertainty is, if you live in the moment, as I do, and I preach on the Brave Never Fall all the time, try to get yourself to live in the present moment as much as possible. Don't let your past dictate what you're going to do. Don't let your future self intimidate you. Try to stay in the present moment. And the best way to do it is, I've found and I've worked on, and there's a friend of mine out there who is a master at mindfulness, and she's been talking a lot about mindfulness and how you can keep yourself in the present moment and not let things overwhelm you. And it's really prevalent in this point in time, because what you can do is center yourself in a way. And I do this with my Tai Chi breathing exercises that I do practically every day. But there's also a physical movement you can do with these breathing exercises that even enhances your ability to stay in the moment. But I find myself now bringing myself back to the present moment more than ever, because we don't know what the future is going to bring. Again, that uncertainty. When you don't know what the future is going to bring, you have to kind of bring yourself back to the moment and start just realizing you can only control what you can control. And what are you going to do here? Because regardless if you're stuck inside, or you have an essential job, or you can go outside, or you can do this and that, you can move around, and actually, if you're a social person, this is probably fucking hell for you. But if you're not, and you're introverted, what are you doing? So the door swings both ways. You have to kind of stay in routine. And that was the thing I was thinking about, was Is my uncertainty going to displace everything that I worked so hard to put in motion? Is my uncertainty going to displace everything I worked so hard to put in motion? Is my self-discipline going to be disrupted by this virus, by people being frightened around me, by me having new job duties and a new routine that I kind of have to adapt to that was not in my plan at all, not in my control? How do we deal with this? How you deal with this is that you try to stay in the present moment in your uncertainty. Center your uncertainty as best you can. And the best way you can do that is that you have to just kind of stop, slow everything down, close your eyes, and focus on your breathing, and try to understand you are still breathing. You are still in control of more of your life than you would ever realize in this moment. Especially if you're quarantined and you're doing the exact same thing they're asking you to do. As long as you're keeping yourself safe and you're not taking chances, you're not being reckless, you still have an overwhelming, tremendous amount of control of your life. That tremendous amount of control that you pilot, it's yours. You own it. No one can tell you how to function it. No one can tell you what the purpose of it is. No one can tell you what the end game is. You're in control. You write the blueprint. It's your life. This virus will eventually take its course and it will go away. But even if it didn't, let's say it went on for 10 years. Quarantine is quarantine. Life is going to change outside those windows you're inside of whenever it wants to. We didn't expect the virus. We don't know what to do with it. As of now, eventually it will work its way through and take its course, and we will move on to our new version, a new world version of who we are, because this world will never be the same after this. It's just no way. You have to be the same for yourself. If you need to make necessary adjustments, make them. But just know that the moment doesn't own you. You own the moment. What is your action in every moment? It still applies. A world pandemic does not mean you throw all of your values, your morals, your spiritual connections, your friendships, all the things that you grew to love about yourself, your self-love, your self-respect, your self-control, your discipline, being brave, being bold, all of these things. You are still on your path. The path has not crumbled beneath you because a virus is out. What you need to do at this moment in time is understand that you still exist. You still have a purpose. This will not last forever. Unfortunately for a lot of people, their lives will come to an end. That's why this is a pandemic. That's why it's so important that your purpose is still on purpose. Because you never know. Anybody can get it. Anybody can die from it. And we're all going through it together. The most important thing to realize is that you are not alone in it. The world is going through this together. I often say when you are fearful, centering yourself and trying to remain as balanced as you can is essential to getting over the hump of that fear. It's not always about just understanding it. It's about understanding that you, no matter what you're afraid of, you know you're going to push past it. You are capable and certainly able of getting through whatever amount of fear that's presenting itself to you. Regardless if it's a pandemic or death in the family, it really doesn't matter. What are you doing? What is your action in the moment to make sure you get through this scenario positively? Get through that barrier, still the same version of who you were before you went through that barrier, but not only get through that barrier, add a piece. You're getting better. Each day you need to get better. There are people out there who are going to try to pull you down. They're afraid. They're scared. Rightfully so. We understand that. But the thing you have to remember is that Another person's fear has nothing to do with you. It's just like a narcissistic person. Whatever a narcissistic person is going through in their life that they're projecting on you and trying to manipulate you with, that has nothing to do with you. You should not take it personally. Another person's fear you should not take personally. It's hard to connect in the world when they're telling you to disconnect. It's hard to be social with people when they're telling you to do social distancing. Which is why this is the greatest time ever to work on yourself. To work on your true personal relationships. To work on your family dynamics. To work on your body. You don't need a lot of energy, so stop eating as much. They're still letting you go outside, so if you don't have an essential job and you have all the time in the world, go out there and walk 5 to 10 miles a day. Why not, right? Why not write down in a journal every single day your thoughts? Why not communicate more with the people you never communicated with enough that are important in your life? Why not work on that project that you've been dying to work on, and the excuse you never got started on it with was, I didn't have time. Same with exercise. I didn't have time to exercise. You have all the time in the world now. Take a negative and turn it into a positive. The biggest positive out of this pandemic is time. You have all the time in the world now. Even if you have an essential job, you still have all the time in the world now. You have time to think, meditate, reflect, dive deeper into who you are. So when we come out of this pandemic, you're a better person. That should be your purpose. Everybody in the world should have a newfound purpose. Even if you went into 2020 believing this is my goal, it's up here, way high, bar raised way high. The number one goal, the letter A goal, capital A goal, is what I came into 2020 with. Guess what? That goal, won't you shift it down a little bit and put another goal on top of it? Because you have all the time in the world now. There's no excuse for you not to reach your goal. Unless your goal was, I want to become a millionaire. It's going to be kind of hard to do that in this year. One of my personal goals for 2020 was I wanted to double my income. And I was well on my way to doing that before this happened. But that's not going to deter me. Meaning, I am still going to try to achieve that goal. But I'm also going to add the goal of, guess what? I have all this extra time. I'm a marathon runner. I want to make sure that by the end of this year, I can run 50 miles straight. Where that was a goal for 2021. Why? Because I have time to do it. Don't waste your time by not believing in your time. Your time is valuable. Everybody's time is valuable. What are you going to do with it? I picked up a ton of books. As soon as the pandemic came through and everyone was talking about we're going to be quarantined, I went straight to I highly recommend you do this. Find your local Goodwill and go in there and search the book section. You'd be shocked how many books you get for $1. The quality of books that you can get for $1 is astonishing. I have about 4 or 5 books that I picked up because I knew I was going to be reading a lot more that were a buck. So I got $5 worth of books, and all of them was on healing. And if you look them up online, they're all $30-40 a piece. And I got them for $1. Be smart in this time. If you get the stimulus, don't waste all your money on bullshit. Maybe you should save it. Who knows what this world's going to be about. But again, if you listen to it 5 years from now, that stimulus quote there won't actually mean anything to you. But the point is, it's about being smart at all times. What is your action? Are you going to waste your time? Are you going to value your time and actually gain something out of every moment you get from this? Can you turn every moment of this negative time into a positive? Because you have the opportunity to do so. Life hasn't ended. It's only beginning, the new version of it. I talk about regenesis all the time, a rebirth. That's exactly what we're going through right now. We'll never be the same after this. And it's no different than if someone important in your life died. You will never be the same again. If there's some significant event that happened in your life, you'll never be the same again. But The one thing that would deter anything that could come positive out of it is fear of the unknown, loathing of uncertainty. Uncertainty is just a word. You can deal with it, you can handle it, you can battle it. And you do it by being in the moment, realizing what your action is in the moment, centering yourself, balancing yourself, and understanding what your true on-purpose objective is in life. And if you don't know what that is, you have all the time in the world to figure it out now. Regardless if you listen to this right now or 5 years from now, make the time. Make the time for what's valuable to you to get over the hump, to eradicate fear, to understand that you are on purpose. You need to show up for people around you. What is your action in this moment? If you have goals, how do you intend on getting them? And are you truly doing enough? Or are you making excuses, patting yourself on the back and saying, hey, everybody's afraid, why can't I be afraid too? Be uncommon. Be uncommon. That's exactly why I turned that camera off when I was doing that video, is because I realized it's easy for everyone to talk in the moment about don't be afraid, don't do this, don't do that. I needed to reflect on it, and this is what you're getting here, is me just understanding it's okay to be afraid. That's a normal human reaction to something as scary as a pandemic. People are dying. It's not a subject matter that should be taken lightly by anyone. But the first thing you can do is just center yourself and focus on you. If you aren't focused and balanced and still on routine and on purpose, and you're not showing up for the people around you, and you have no intent every day, what are you going to do with your life? What are you going to do with your life? The virus could end today. We can find a worldwide cure. And what did you get out of this whole ordeal? And if this is 5 years from now and you listen to this, how did that work out for you? What decisions did you make during the quarantine that worked out for you? Come out of this a better person. Make the hard decisions. Make the decisive decisions. Focus yourself. Live in the moment. Understand that whatever is going on in the past, what's going on around you, you can't control any of that shit. All you can do is stand in your now and look at all of the things around you that are going on. And you can pick which thing you want to focal point, which particular scenario that's orbiting around you, that you can make it a focal point. You can say, I'm gonna focus on this right now. Family is important to me. My job's important to me. My body, my health, my religion, whatever it is. Center yourself first right now. You just have to anchor yourself down. There's too much going on around you. The world's in chaos. You have to focus on what's important to you first. Control your mind. Take control of the fact that you are alive, that you are not here on accident. You are on purpose, as my coach always says, and I love that about him. He just drills that into my head. You are on purpose. It's all for naught if you do nothing with it. Life will be hard regardless if there's a pandemic, a terrorist attack, a life-changing event, an asteroid is going to hit the earth. An asteroid is going to hit the earth, excuse me. None of that matters if you're not present in the moment to understand the magnitude of it and what it really means for you. Because people are so focused on what happened before, and they're just so scared of what's going to happen in the future. It's almost like their present is invisible. Stay centered, stay grounded. Understand you are here now. There are decisions and choices you can make right now that will make a great effect on the people around you. And I always center that right now. You just have to worry about you and the people around you. You just don't have the power to affect anything bigger than that. And that's okay. And it's okay to be afraid. It's okay to be paranoid, depressed, having severe anxiety about this. All of that is okay. The important thing is that you are still who you are when this cloud, this dark cloud, this pandemic goes away. You still are who you are. Fearing uncertainty is fine. Just know that in the moment, you can battle it. There are things you can do to cushion the blow of life on your end, on your personal level. And I challenge you to exceed the goals that you made in 2020. And if this is 5 years from now, if you listen to this, do the same right now. Whatever you're going through, exceed the challenges. Don't accept fear as an excuse. Don't be a crybaby and wake up every day and just see this big golden gem of an excuse right in front of you and you want to just go cash it out at the local pawn store. Can't do that. Exceed who you are. Believe you are capable of more. Don't be satisfied with what you're telling yourself, and certainly don't be satisfied with what other people are telling you about who you are. You're special. You're unique. You are on purpose. And if no one else has told you this today, I love you. You deserve to hear that. Salute to you all. The brave never fall. Be safe.